Hello and welcome to Aspects of Writing. I'm your host, James Kelly, and my co-host is Janet Corsi. Our guest for today's show is Brandon Steiner, and the topic of the show is Finding Your Motivation. But before we get to our guest, Janet and I would like to start with a few fun quips or quotes, and Janet, I'm going to let you start.
Did you know I design, manufacture, distribute, and sell elevator buttons? I specialize in the fourth floor. And I don't mean to brag, but I'm such a good salesman that I could sell one of my fourth floor elevator buttons to the owner of a third-story building. And that's by Jared Kentz.
Okay. Occasionally when you're in a zone, striving to operate at your highest levels, you get consumed. You forget to eat and shower. But that can be a good thing. No one makes money eating or showering. And that was by Brandon Steiner.
Interesting.
All right, Jen.
And this is by unknown because I refuse to take credit for it. Dear Alcohol, we had a deal where you would make me funnier, smarter, and a better dancer. I saw the video. We need to talk.
All right. And the last one is, I borrowed this quote from Brandon's Facebook page. And actually, it was a quote from Lori Greiner of the Shark Tank. And you actually had this on your Facebook. It says, entrepreneurs are willing to work 80 hours a week to avoid working 40 hours a week.
That sounds right.
If you're just tuning in, you're listening to Aspects of Writing. Our guest is Brandon Steiner, and the topic of today's show is Finding Your Motivation. Mr. Steiner was born in Flatbush, Brooklyn, New York, and he began his life as a poor kid in Brooklyn. He is one of three sons. His older brother, Kerry, is a writer and educator, and his younger brother, Adam, is an activist for anti-smoking. You hear that, Jen?
I hear that.
All right. His father suffered from epilepsy and left the family when he was 5. Brandon grew up in a tiny apartment where he was raised by his mother, and she taught him the skills about life and wisdom, and he often uses that even today. As a child, Mr. Steiner found an escape in attending and participating in sporting events. However, when a 5th grade teacher presented him with money from his schoolmates to buy new clothes, to his embarrassment, he was spurred to take his first step as an entrepreneur. He started a paper route. He adapted the marketing strategies he learned from watching his mother at work in her salon and her words of encouragement when he was feeling deterred by rejection. Regarding his paper route, she asked, what else could you do for them? The mantra of what else led to his first great business idea to expand his paper route and revenue by delivering not just newspapers to his clients, but also to provide them with fresh milk and bagels. And I'm going to have you tell a story about those bagels in a minute. In 1987, Brandon Steiner, using $4,000 of his savings, applied the same principles and strategies to his own business, Steiner Sports. After graduation, Mr. Steiner attended the Martin J. Whitman School of Management at Syracuse University. In 1988, Brandon Steiner married his wife, Mara. They have 2 children, Crosby and Nicole. Mr. Steiner set sales and management records for New York's first Hard Rock Cafe and went on to create the nation's first sports bar in Tribeca. These projects helped him to forge relationships with many of the sports figures and celebrities that have become an intricate part of Mr. Steiner's marketing business today.
Steiner's memorabilia business took off when in the 1990s he booked the football great Walter Payton with Pfizer. Payton maintained he wasn't an autograph guy, but agreed to a single-session signing. Unsure of how far he could push his luck, Steiner lined up 1,500 items and brought them to Payton, who managed to sign all of them in less than an hour. Then, while dying of liver disease in 1999, Payton agreed to sign 20,000 more items that would be sold only after his death. That agreement and inventory put Steiner's memorabilia business on the map.
Yeah, and for the listeners who don't understand how that works, Mr. Steiner has a company that sells memorabilia, and it's not unusual to go to an individual with thousands of pieces and have them sign, or even hundreds, and have them sign all at once. In 2000, Steiner sold Steiner Sports to Omnicom, but remains the CEO and retains control over the daily business operations. In addition, Brandon is a motivational speaker. He has his own radio show, is a sports commentator, and is the author of The Business Playbook, Leadership Lessons from the World of Sports, and also You Gotta Have Balls, How a Kid from Brooklyn Started from Scratch, Bought Yankee Stadium, and Created a Sports Empire. That's a long title.
Wow.
Okay, what did we leave out, Mr. Steiner, and what else can you tell us about your illustrious career?
Keep going. I'm loving it, man.
If that doesn't
Let's
boost that
go.
ego.
Keep it going. Don't stop.
That's a book all in itself.
My mom will be proud.
let me
She's
tell
just been right behind you, telling you everything you left out. But you did a good job there.
All right. Well,
The devil's in the detail, though, which I'm sure we'll have some time to get into.
yeah.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about the business playbook. Was that the first one, or was the first one you got to
Yeah.
have balls?
That was the first one.
Okay.
I think the business playbook was really the gem, and kind of pissed me off because I wrote that book with my brother, which I was proud to be able to do, and he was a great writer. Actually, he was the genius in the family, frankly. But yeah, and we gave it to the publisher, and he made us rewrite half of it. And I had to go get another writer to help me finish it because they wanted more stories from the athletes. But so I ended up, the second book, which ended up doing better than the first, was really a lot of what the first book originally was supposed to be, which is really just how Steiner got created and the whole journey of Steiner, and from I was a kid till now. But the first book, The Business Playbook, honestly was a book, when I got out of college, and even getting into college was such a dilemma for me, but when I got out of college, it was equally another train wreck because I probably sent out hundreds of resumes and tons of interviews. I couldn't get a job, and I really felt unprepared. And I've been working some 10.
Yeah.
So, if you're somebody who is a go-getter or a salesperson, entrepreneur, really either one of my books are for you. But I really felt unprepared. I said, one day when I do figure this out, I'm going to write a book. I'm going to go back. I want to go to a bunch of different schools, and I'm going to explain to kids really about what it's about, how to find work. And I really think that a lot of kids still to this day misunderstand it. I went to probably about 60 or 70 schools. But, finding work is not something that happens at the end of college. It really needs to be thought about and worked out and strategized even as early in high school. And I think sometimes parents don't want to push their kids, but I think it's bull. I think that you really got to start thinking about, by the way, finding work isn't necessarily need to be the end all, but learning how to get work, learning how to work, doesn't have to be these pristine, perfect jobs are very important. And that's the first book. It's really about building your brand, how you get started, and it has a lot of easy stuff in there. So, sometimes you read these self-help or directional, motivational books, and they're very hard to get your arms wrapped around as far as being able to put things in play. This book really did. And I'll give you an example. Networking, another bull, a terminology that I don't even understand what that even means. You're going to walk in a room, right, with a few hundred people, and you're going to actually meet anybody. When was the last time you walked in a room and just started meeting people all over the place? It's really hard to do. And I explain to kids, I'm like, listen, you can't meet enough people, and you should try to go out and be at places where there's a lot of influential people. But I said, hey, do you know what every one of your neighbors does for a living? You grew up in a house, you stayed in an apartment. Do you know what every one of your neighbors does for a living? And have you told them what you want to do for a living? Every friend you have in college, do you know what their parents do for a living? Do you know what every one of your relatives does for a living? You have a better shot of calling your third, fourth cousin, an aunt, or a distant uncle than walking in a room and meeting somebody and them helping you.
Right.
So why not just call the people that you know? I would say it's not who you know or what you know, but what you know about who.
Yeah, and what you're saying makes sense because you can network all you want to, but I'm just like you. I found that the people who have the connections want them for themselves. They're not always willing to help you with that.
Yeah, you hope that there's some people that are, and then just the last part of that, just another simple strategy, but it's like anywhere you spend money, anywhere, you should let that person know. If you go to a bar and you have a couple of drinks every week, or you go to have a sandwich a few times a week, who knows who that person knows is meeting? How many people go up and get a sandwich? Why not tell that person, say, you have a little leverage. If you're spending money, the least you could do is, hey, let me tell you what I'm doing. Maybe you know somebody. If I'm lining your pockets and I'm helping your business, maybe you'll help my business. So those are the simple things. Anywhere you're spending money, at least let that person know what you're trying to do and see if they'll help you. Because there's a good chance if you're spending money with me, I probably want to help you back. So, that's a better way of looking at networking than saying, hey, go to these meetings, yeah, that's good, but how hard is that for so many people? But calling up relatives, getting to know neighbors, getting to know friends that you go to school and there with their parents do, that seems to be a strategy that could work.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, it's just like, I go to the same grocery
That's
store.
kind of what the first book is about. I mean, it's a whole series of, hey, soft toss. Listen, we're all trying to come up with that big idea, the big invention, the big improvement, come up with a story that's just going to be unbelievable. But these are great little baby steps you could take, and the whole book is filled with great stories of how you can kind of do some of these things and get your brand and get your career going. And that's the business playbook. I mean, I use a couple of player stories, to say the least, of some of their trials and tribulations from a Jeter, Bob Feller. There's a whole bunch of athletes that talk about things weren't always so rosy for them, and then they use examples of how they got going and how to use some grease to get it going.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I just want to let our listeners know, if you're just tuning in, you're listening to Aspects of Writing with me, your host, James Kelly. My co-host is Janet Corsi, and Brandon Steiner is our guest today. And we're talking about his two books. So what was the second book about, pretty much? You got to have balls. Is that what you were talking about with telling? Well, explain what you mean by that.
Oh, sorry, hit me with that again?
You got to have balls. What is the title of your book?
Oh, I thought you said, what is that book about? It's like, well, first of all, you got to have balls is my mother's favorite line.
Okay.
So sometimes it's misconstrued. But the reality is we do sell hundreds of thousands of balls that are autographed, so it's a little bit of a play on words, too. But the book is everything my mother taught me.
Okay.
And that's, I'm sorry it's not more sexier, but I was like one of those kids that listened to his mom. I made a ton of money off of it. I listened. I didn't do everything she told me, but, I figured my mother knew me best. She gave me some great advice. And that's what the book is. It's just a story, but, when Steiner got started, which was when I was 10, and it was just, it's been basically, at 10, most kids' careers don't start at 10, but, and just talks about some of the learning lessons. And that's what I really urge. I just got to say this, and I was up at Syracuse today teaching a negotiation class. I live in New York City. I just went in there for the day with the chancellor teaching that class. And I can't emphasize enough. I was talking to the kids about this one thing, which is, don't get caught up in the hype. It's like, if you have kids or you're somebody younger listening, like, you don't have to have all these unbelievable internships and capstones. Going to work, whether it be delivering groceries, whether it's serving tables, washing dishes, delivering pizza, there's something to be said about that, because the higher up you go,
right,
all it means is the more you're going to serve. And the quicker and the younger in age you learn how to serve and know how to take care of people and listen to people what they want and try to take care of what they want, the better you're going to be later on. And once you get that into your, once you get that into what you're about as a business person, because the higher up a business person you want to be is really just about understanding what people need and trying to deliver and serve them with it.
Well, how do you feel about the fact that today, in society today, we have a tendency to degrade people who have a job at McDonald's or Burger King, or, instead of saying, good for them, they're doing the best. I believe that anyone who takes a job, I don't care what you're paid, if you took that job, you should do the best job possible. And I think that as society, we should be proud of anyone who's working and whatever they're doing. And I see sometimes that's a detriment, because you see other kids poking kids at other kids for doing something menial, when it's a job. We all have to have a job.
Yeah, but I think the key is to be curious, to try all kinds of different things, not what your gut feeling says or not what you feel like you're going to be passionate about. I mean, I was in high school. I worked in a hospital for a year and a half in the emergency room with my friend because his father wanted to become a doctor. I said, let me see what that's about. Every experience you have, really, all the grains of sand is what equals the beach. And I really think that you got to try a lot of things. That's what being young is about being fearless and about trying things, because you never know how one thing is going to lead to another. And by the way, just because you make a decision to do something doesn't mean it has to be the end all.
No.
But I think you got to make a commitment. Whatever you do decide to do it great. Whether you like it, love it, hate it, be great at it, work your tail off. And at a certain point, you'll find something else to do. Because people really, when you work hard and have that kind of work ethic, regardless, people notice. And you develop a reputation and certainly a confidence that you can take on things no matter what and get it done. I think it's really important, and I think it's a big part of who I am as a business person.
Okay, I want to ask you something. I need to ask you about the everything bagel.
No problem. It seems to be a common conversation point on a bunch of different shows, and I've seen some people that are dabbling with the idea that they invented it, but it's just not true. I mean, I was there way early and way before them, and that's just the way it is.
Yeah. You were 14, I think, when you came up with the idea.
About 13 or 14, and really the way the story goes is, and if I have a few minutes to tell this story, when I was younger, I went in and I saw my mom, and I told her I wanted a career change. She said, well, what's going on? I said, well, I want more time in the afternoons. I was delivering fruit and vegetables, and I want to change careers. I want to change direction. She says, you're 12. What career change are you talking about? I said, she said, why don't you go get a paper route? In those days, now I realize today's day nobody gets the paper. So I got the paper route, and I'm all over the place trying to open up accounts. And finally, I'm knocking on this woman's door, and sure enough, she's got a stack of papers. I said, ma'am, would you like the paper delivered? She says, no. I said, it's the same price from me as it is from the corner store, 8 cents. She said, absolutely not. I said, why? Because I got to tip you then, and it's going to cost me money. I go home, I tell my mom, I said, Mom, the people in this neighborhood are so cheap. I don't know why we even live in this neighborhood. It's ridiculous. My mother says, listen, I'm going to teach you a valuable lesson, and don't ever forget it. You can't expect to sell something that other people have. You got to differentiate yourself. You can't have the same exact approach and just expect people to buy it from you. And hence, you got to be a promoter. You got to be a marketer. I go back to that woman a couple of days later. She was a little bit of an elderly woman, probably in her 70s. And I said, ma'am, would you like to get the paper delivered? She said, Sonny, I told you. Now, I go back to her and said, ma'am, I was thinking about you. If it's torrential downpour, snowstorm, heat wave, ice on the streets, it's probably not a good idea for a woman like you to be outside. If I bring you hot bagels on Sunday morning and on Wednesday and milk on Wednesday and Sundays, the paper will never be late after 7 a.m. You need something else, I'll pick it up for you. She said, you would do that for me? I said, I was thinking about you. I was concerned. Sure enough, not only did she get the paper delivered, but she was the mayor. 199 dailies and 234 Sundays later. I started that account with 29 dailies. The woman turned me on to everyone. Now, how that story relates to a lot of people, before I get to the bagel thing, is it's not about what you're selling. It's about what people need to buy. How are you differentiating yourself? And are you listening to the people you're trying to sell to with not what you're trying to sell, but listening to how and what they need to buy?
Mm-hmm.
Now, in that value proposition, which I've made basically is the core of my existence, how I've made a lot of money with understanding what people need versus worrying about what I'm trying to sell and do, I picked up a hell of a lot of bagels. And I stopped by this bagel store. It was one of the few bagel factories in the early 70s that existed in Brooklyn, and they would bake. It was a factory as long as a store, and we had this huge route and would deliver all these supermarkets and everything. So the guy Lou owned that place, and I mean, right now people don't understand this because there's bagel stores everywhere and they bake bagels, but back then, very, very few far and apart. This is before a Bagel Notch or any bagel stores. So Lou comes to me and says, listen, I see you here every morning picking up bagels, milk. Would you like to come and learn how to bake? I'm like 13 years old, 14 years old.
Uh-huh.
He says, we start at 4 a.m. You could bake with us for about 3 hours, and then you could deliver your newspapers. I said, listen, I'd love to do that. Maybe I could do that twice a week and once on the weekends. Sunday, I'm too busy. I have the Sunday papers. I got to put them together. It's too much. But I could do it 3 days a week. I'll pick up 10, 12 extra hours. I could use the money. Now, that's delusional for a 13-year-old to wake up at 4 a.m, then deliver papers, then go to school.
Yeah.
But, of course, I never really looked at much of my – I didn't really understood my limits, so I did it. And I started falling asleep in school. But sure enough, a month later, he pulls me in. He goes, listen, I got a night job open. I'm firing my night baker. Would you take that job? Now that I've taught you how to do that. I said, yeah, sure. I go in and start baking at night. I quit the paper route. And sure enough, I'm bored. It's not a lot of baking. I'm just kind of baking as customers come in. It's really light. In the morning, we were baking hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of bagels. And it was just a factory just trying to get the bagels made for the route. And I start screwing around with the bagels because I'm making these twists, I'm making these braids, I'm making these all different kinds of seeds. And so out of boredom, I just take all the seeds because I love a salted bagel. Also like the garlic. My mother liked the onion, like it was yesterday. I can tell you this. because we lived really around the corner from the bagel factory. So I never ate white bread, rye bread. Everything I had was on a bagel.
Okay.
So I lived in a world of bagels. I mean, there was never anything in my house other than bagels. And bagels freeze really well. I'm not going to get into the whole making of bagels, but it's a very complicated dough. And it's not easily something you can make at home. So anyway, I was screwing around with the bagels at night, and I was throwing all the seeds on everything, and I called it an everything bagel. Boom. We started rolling with the everything bagel.
All right. That's the story of the everything bagel.
That's interesting.
Story of the everything bagel. And I wish I would have known a little more back then, because I could have had everything seasoning, and I probably could have copyrighted that and made some money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The funny thing is, when I told that story, it's like this guy emails and says, I have everythingbagel.com, and I'm shipping. I appreciate you coming up with an idea, but we all know that it's not about coming up with an idea. It's about expediting and facilitating an idea, and that's exactly what I did.
Yeah.
I didn't invent the Everything Bagel, but I did invent everythingbagels.com, and I'm selling thousands of bagels around the country, shipping them every day. I'm like, son of a gun. Good for you, though.
Yep.
All right.
Yep.
What motivates you every day?
Well, it's funny. A lot of people ask me, especially, I've probably lived the lowest level of poverty, or pretty close to it, growing up. And I always say to people, I saw the light at an early age. Unfortunately, it was a refrigerator light, because that refrigerator was empty.
Yeah.
And I think when you grow up and you're working at such a young age and trying to figure out how to make things meet, I used to handle the checkbook in my home. We were a single parent. And you're trying to go to talk to the person behind the counter to pay your electric bill, to hold the check for 3 days.
Yeah.
Or you're waiting for your food stamps to come in so you could eat.
Right.
Or you're going to a food bank to get food. I mean, I don't know if you ever lose that hunger. There's kind of part of that in me that, even still to this day, I've done well, but I still open up that refrigerator and can't believe how much food's in there every day.
Yeah.
And then part of me is just the curiosity. I just love to invent, to think of different ideas. I've always been a curious cat. I've always been a little bit of an odd bird, as far as like, wow, I wonder if we did this, wonder if we did that. And I kind of like the idea of trying to make the world a little bit better and trying to take on a business opportunity to go wow people. It's a combination of things, but I don't know if you ever lose the hunger. And I think as a parent, regardless of your financial status, I always say it's about the game within the game. Like, can you keep your kids hungry without bullshitting them? Without like trying to give them the impression that you don't have money, or how hard things are. You have to appreciate things, but how can you keep your kid challenged and hungry? Because that's almost a bigger proposition than trying to, go through this. When I was a kid, and I had they don't want to hear it. But so, I try to emphasize the challenge, about doing something in life that's extraordinary. The challenge of paying it forward and helping others as you become more successful, using that influence, and the joy you get out of helping others. So that's kind of what keeps me motivated. The fact that as I increase the success or do well, I can help a lot of other people. That's what motivates me these days.
Well, and I think one of the things to keep in mind, too, is motivation isn't always about money. And I know for you it isn't either, because I've read a lot of what you do.
No, I'm motivated by money. Money motivates me. Nah, I'm kidding. I like money. I mean, I think people like money. It's fun making money. Money is the scorecard, it's like winning. I don't really care that much about what you do with the money, but the money kind of keeps track of the score in a lot of ways. Mm-hmm. So, when you've done well, you've made a lot of money. If you're in the business world, to me, winning is making a lot of money, then being able to take some of that money, charity, some of the different things I could do to help others. Mm-hmm. That's the ultimate win for me. But, listen, I like making money. I think if you're in business, you should not be bashful about your ambition. And it's okay to like the money. That's kind of the scorecard of it. But, the more thing that's motivating is doing really good quality work and having people appreciate the work you're doing and the products you're making, and that sort of thing. So I didn't mean to burst your bubble on that. The money isn't everything thing, but money is, we're in a capitalist society. Money is important to some degree.
Yeah, no, yeah. I agree with you on that. But I think that people, especially when it comes to, like you wrote your books, people have to find a way to motivate themselves. I don't even know how to explain that, but you just need to. What is it that motivates you? Once you find that motivation, you can do anything you want. It's just getting it in your head that you need to do it or you want to do it.
Yeah, I think making your mom proud has always been an issue. I know my mother's proud of me. Having your wife and your kids proud of the work you're doing and the success you have is certainly a motivating factor for me.
Yeah. Yeah, we had a guest on the show who he was very accomplished. You know, he was in a rock band for 20 years, then he went into finance and made tons of money in finance. And his wife looked at him and said, "You're not happy. What do you want to do?" And he said, "I want to write." So he started writing books, and he's very successful. But the thing is, when he set out to write, he had given up on the idea of making more money, just be successful in what he wanted to do as a writer. It turns out he's doing well. But so sometimes the motivation factor doesn't always have to be about the money.
Yeah.
It's about the accomplishment.
Yeah, to me also the process, it's hard when you're in the middle of things and up and down. And if you're doing anything extraordinary, you're going to have that middle. That, oh my God, I wonder if I'm on the wrong path. I wonder if this whole thing's going to blow up. I wonder if I'm going to fail. And you got to learn. I've learned, to enjoy that. I mean, at least some of the time, or get into deep, deep level of misery, which could be motivating in itself. The fear of failure. And I can get into dark places. There are times when I'm like, something, this is good. This is almost impossible. This is good. Like, there's no way I can even do this, but I'm going to do it. And I enjoy that. Sometimes just the just insanity of just what I just said. Mm-hmm. And then sometimes I'm like, something, I may have to die doing this, but I'm okay. If I die and I know who's died doing this, I'm good. And I think that if you talk to people that have done some extraordinary things as far as building an industry, changing a business, or building something really extraordinary, a lot of them will tell you they've gone to that dark place.
Yeah.
And then they got that's where they have to go to figure it out and put some kind of order and figure out how they're going to do it. And then at this point, I'm not that uncomfortable going there, because some of the best things I've ever done have been coming off of that dark road.
Well, I think the problem too, a lot of people forget where they came from when they do acquire success. And I agree with you. It's great to have the money and enjoy life, but I don't think you should ever forget how it all started. It's an important part of living. You are quoted as having said, "Net worth for an individual is defined as the value of all assets, long-term assets, minus the value of all liabilities. Self-worth is defined as the sense of one's own value or worth as a person, self-esteem, self-respect. The bottom line in life is that when you do good, you feel good. When you do bad, you feel bad. That's how self-worth is measured." And I like that. That's what you said, and that's a very good
I think
point.
people get confused between net worth and self-worth, and you can be extremely valuable and not have a lot of money. And I think people sometimes put a lot of value to people that they know have a lot of money or have a big business. And meanwhile, those, we've seen a lot of athletes that have got the fame, the fortune, and a bunch of jerks, a bunch of idiots. I don't want to be them. I want to be like them. So, fame and fortune just really broadcast who you really are.
Right.
But you can't be confused with self-worth and net worth. And if you're lucky enough to have a lot of money, so be it. But that doesn't define who you are. It doesn't make you a good person.
No.
I tell a lot of people, too, that go to church every Sunday and synagogue every Saturday, listen, you may be a very religious person, but it doesn't make you a good person. You maybe feel like you're closer to God, but that doesn't automatically give you a good person just because you show up on Sunday and pray for a couple hours.
Right.
There's a lot more to it. And it's the same thing with business. Just because you got a ton of money, you could buy yourself out of certain things. It doesn't make you a good person.
Right.
Because at the end, there'll be a judgment day. You'll be lying down one day. I'm not sure when it's going to be. And then there'll be judgment day of, and then you have to deal with it.
Well, you have 33 favorite Steinerisms for business success. And I went through them.
Thank you.
Yeah.
These are really great.
Some are
I try to be original. I mean, I try.
One of them is a big part of who you are is who raised you and where you grew up. And I think that's important, that regardless of who you are, your background is always going to have an influence on what you become. I think that's important. And then you have two that are fairly similar. You say, do as much as you can for as many people as you can without expecting anything in return. And I'm a firm believer that if you're going to give, you don't need to brag about it. Just do it because you're doing it because you want to. And you said mother...
I'll say one thing about that, and that is, first of all, if you want to give, there's so many ways to give, and I don't feel like it's such an automatic where, whether you want to brag about it or not, you're better off doing something that's really good to help people and bragging about it than doing nothing.
Right.
I think we all agree to that. So, but I think, if you ask my kids, the mantra is do as much as you can for as many people as you can, as often as you can, and expect nothing back. And I think, whatever way you go about it, because there are a lot of things I have to do for as many people as I can for business, and I have to brag about it.
Yeah.
It's just the way it is. And then there are a bunch of things I just do behind closed doors with my wife, and no one knows about it. But the most important thing is you do something, and the most important thing is you try to help people as often as you can.
Well,
and,
your mom actually said it's our job to do the right thing and to help others. Give to give, don't give to get.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's a great philosophy. If you're expecting something in return, if you gave it out of the generosity of your heart, you shouldn't be expecting anything in return. So,
well, it's a grown-up game when you play it. A lot of people want to do something for somebody, but then they want to, at some point I can get a favor, I could do this, can do that. It's a hard concept just to do not only do the right thing, but think about the right thing. That's a concept also, thinking about the right thing, not only doing it, but thinking it. But a lot of people want a horse trade. I'll do you right if you do me right. If not, then I'm not doing you right. I don't mind putting it out there. I'm not going to lie. I've been screwed. I mean, there are people that there's no way I've done a lot of favors for, and I may never even hear from them, see them again, or maybe I will, and I'm good with it. I'm okay with it.
Yeah.
I feel good. I'm fine.
I also like your number 4.
I may never see you guys again after this interview. I mean, I'm good.
Oh, you never know. You never know.
It's fine.
But I do like this comment, too. It says, commitment is not always convenient. And that is true. It's sometimes hard to keep those commitments. But I do believe, just like you, if you make a commitment, you need to stick to it.
I can't believe how that's such a lost art these days.
It is a lost art, though. I'm telling you now.
Yeah, as soon as I'm flexible. Yeah, I'm good at it. What happened? Well, I got a little paper cut. I'm sorry, I'm out.
You know what? I'm going to say something to you, and this is really something that you did that's great. We scheduled you for today. It's been a while. You had to change things just a little bit, but you kept your commitment, and you're still on the show today, and I truly appreciate that. My
wife doesn't, but I'm glad you do that. And that's cool, because I looked my wife dead in the eye, who I was supposed to go out with, and I said, listen, I'm going to have to postpone that for 30 minutes. I'm sorry. I made a commitment to these guys. I don't want to disappoint them. And listen, it's the same thing today. I mean, I went to Syracuse today. I flew up, back and forth in one day for basically a 2-hour class. And it's a 4-hour drive, 2 hour. But I told the guy 8 months ago I was going to do it. And I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
I think that keeping your word is a lost art.
Absolutely.
Oh, sorry, I broke my word. No. That's everything.
Yeah.
Not the amount of likes you have, not the amount of shares, not the amount of followers, but no, the amount of times you keep your word, that people can trust you and know when you say it, you're good.
Yeah.
That's what's important.
It is important. It's very important. And we don't see enough of it today.
Your word is your bond.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a lost art now. I think, I'm sorry, I couldn't make it. Well, no, you said you're in now, and even if it's not convenient. And I think that it's a really important lesson if you're listening, if you're an employee. It's not about only what your company could do for you, but if your company needs you, there should be no shot clock.
Right.
Right.
Well, I only worked till 6. No, get it done. You made a commitment. Get the client what they're supposed to get. That's what being a great employee is about.
Absolutely.
When you say you're going to do something, do it.
Do it.
Yep.
For the boss, for yourself, for your teammates, do it.
Yes.
And I think a lot of people get knocked off the dime quickly.
Yeah. You also say, don't let a bump in the road put you on the side of the road in a ditch. I kind of like that, too.
Yeah.
Well, to me, the bump on the road is the blessing. That's what you learn. I mean, imagine if everything was a smooth, nice paved road. I mean, there'd be no learning. There'd be no flat tires. There'd be no. So that's where you grow. Those bumps are a blessing.
There'd be no
that's
value.
Where they get you really thinking and have to dig and have to grind out. And that's when you think about the stuff you've accomplished, the best stuff you've ever done is all stuff that you've had to get bumped off. People told you no. Setbacks. That's where the real learning happens.
Right.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
This next one you say is really, really important, more than anything I think you've written. Don't regret where you've been if you like where you are. And so many times people cry over what happened in the past, and it's not going to change anything now. But if you like where you are now, what does it matter anyway? Yeah. That's in the past.
Yeah, because if you're swimming in the old bath water, it's never going to work out well. I'm not one to listen. I'm a collector of all sorts, but I'm not one to just make believe like nothing ever happened in the past. I mean, some people say everything's all about going forward. I think you can consider it, and every now and then have to go back in the past and kind of reset or rethink. But
Right.
to dwell on it,
Right.
be happy where you are. And I think I got that advice from some woman who was well in their 90s and said, if you want to live to 100, here's the 3 things you have to do, and that was one of them.
Yeah.
It's like where you are, and something to be said about that. Because we all have a habit. When you go out for dinner, you wish you ordered what the other person got, or you all wish you went to some other restaurant, or we should have gone and seen that other movie, or maybe we should have gone on vacation here rather than there.
Yeah, right.
But you got to get used to kind of liking where you are, and it's a very easy habit to get into.
Yeah.
About the job you should have taken, or this or that. And you got to really lock in with the decisions you made.
Yeah, and what you just said is true, too. It's okay to reminisce once in a while and understand what happened, but just don't dwell on it. It has nothing to do with where you are today.
Learn from it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Another Steinerism is the only thing you should expect from money is a better hotel room.
I think there's 2 things. That was one of them. But the other thing that really you can expect from money is choices. You get to make choices. You get to really decide who you're going to work with. And that's a big thing. Who you work with and when you want to work comes with the more money you have. But to think that you're more valuable because you have a nice car and a nice house is delusional.
All right.
We're all the same here, regardless of how much we make, or if we can run a 440, or we're the president or the vice president or governor. It doesn't matter. I think those, to me, we're all equal as people. And I tell my kids, we live in a pretty nice house, and I tell them, these are just things.
Right.
That's all they are. They're just things. They can't become who we are and what we're about. We have to remember that and separate it. It's nice having this stuff. It's nice having a nice car or a boat or whatever you have, and you shouldn't be bashful about having it, but don't let it define you, and don't create more overimportance about it.
Right, exactly. It's kind of like what we were talking about with jobs. When you say my job's more important than this person's, everyone's job's important. You also say it's okay to lose as long as you don't lose the lesson.
Yeah.
And boy,
losing will give you the blueprint.
Yeah.
Well, losing will give you the blueprint for winning. You look at the team that won by 2 points. They're celebrating, champagne, having a field day. You lose by 2 points, everybody's ready to jump off the bridge.
Yeah.
And it's really, right? I mean, we got to fix this. Exactly. So, sometimes losing, like great coaches and even sometimes great managers will lose in order to get a team's attention in business and in sports. Because when you win, it's just really hard to get your team's attention that they have to get better. The whole game plan of in sports and in business is to every day get better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, when you lose, sometimes it just puts more emphasis on that. We got to get better.
Yeah.
We're short. And sometimes winning gives you the wrong message. So, sometimes after some really bad losses, whether it be in business at Steiner, where a couple of things have happened, we end up losing some money. I'm like, sometimes it helps us because we realize we got to maybe let a couple people go, or change a couple of pricing structures, or work a little harder to get some clients that maybe we didn't get, and it really ends up being a good thing.
Mm-hmm. You also say, dig the well before you're thirsty. I like that.
Yeah, Harvey McKay. Dig your well before you're thirsty. Great book.
Yeah, a lot of people
great
don't understand.
guy. Yeah,
it means be prepared. Prepare yourself before you just jump in with both feet. Sorta, I guess.
Exactly. Yeah.
What I like this one. I didn't understand it at first, and then Jan had to explain it to me. But you wrote, "Don't eat sushi on a Sunday."
Yeah.
Well, my two tips are, don't eat ballpark food before the end of the third inning.
Uh-huh.
And that's because it's probably left over from the game before, so I don't want any part of that.
There's the answer.
And then don't eat sushi on a Sunday there's actually, I'm going to give you 3 of them, but don't eat, because, I think that fish probably is brought in on Thursday or Friday. It's already 2-3 days old.
Right.
Why I don't like to do it on a Sunday is a lot of times that's the second team working on a Sunday after a busy Friday and Saturday night. And if they're not taking good care of that fish, icing it and really making sure it's prepared, you potentially could get sick. You need the A team, keep an eye, because fish needs to be kept on ice, needs to be fresh. You have to keep an eye on it. You can't leave it out. And by Sunday, there's a chance that maybe some of that fish got left out. Mm-hmm. And then the third thing is never order a special where the same item is on the menu. So, if you see, veal franchise, and then you got, a veal chop Milanese or, on the menu, and then that's a special, and then you have a veal chop on the menu, that's a problem.
All right, they're trying to get rid of inventory.
Uh-huh.
Exactly. So we know that. Yeah.
Your
Yeah.
best days are not your yesterdays. That's true. I mean, you
Well,
have to look
that gets
forward to
yeah.
every day as being, better.
Well, it's a little bit more than that. It's about the water is not the grass is not greener over there. The grass is greener where you water it, and then you got to plan your tomorrow today. It's a lot of it is about really looking forward, kind of what we were talking about before. I think a lot of people let something that happened in their past get in the way of their future, and it's terrible. And we're all guilty of that story we tell ourselves. To give you an example, and I'm just meeting you for the first time on this phone call, but you probably had some girlfriends growing up.
Okay. Yeah.
And right, before you got married, you had some girlfriends, and yet, as you're dating, you had the one girl that dumped you, broke your heart.
Okay.
Now you meet some new girl, and immediately you're not thinking about the 7 nice relationships you had, went on some fun dates, and you think of the one girl that broke your heart, and you're afraid to go make yourself vulnerable again. Why? Because I've been hurt before.
Yeah.
But how about all the 6 or 7 other relationships you had that were good?
Right.
But that one that one thing will oh my God, I got a bad boss. Oh my God, now all bosses are bad. You can't trust any bosses because the one boss screwed you.
Right.
And
We
so I
dwell
think
on
it's
the
really
bad instead of looking at all
yeah,
the good.
we do have an emphasis on the bad.
Yeah.
We make the bad emphasis much greater than the emphasis on the good.
Do you
and
suppose?
I think that you cannot let your best days be your yesterdays. You got to make sure there's not a story lingering from the past that tends to get in the way of creating your better story for the future.
Right.
And in my office is a plaque that says, "What's your story? Everyone has one."
Right.
And when I look at people and I point to the plaque, when I first meet them, they sit down and I say, "Listen, what's your story? Everybody has one. And by the way, most people's stories, it ain't true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It ain't true, but you're living with it because something happened 10 years ago, 20 years ago. It's not a profound effect on you. And now that's your yesterdays. How are we going to go create a new story for tomorrow?"
Right.
That makes sense. That's true.
Well, you
I don't know
can't
if
live
that's
by
making any
yesterday's.
sense, but
yeah. You always have to be moving forward. So.
Yeah. Hopefully that makes some sense. I'm not sure if I'm making any sense.
Yes.
But
Yes.
It makes perfect sense to me.
All right. I'm going to introduce you to someone, and the reason I'm going to do this, Brandon, and I don't know if you're going to be impressed by this or not, but this has a lot to do with motivation. Like I was saying earlier, sometimes motivation isn't always about money. But I have a friend who actually has a Topps baseball cards book dated 1951 to 1985.
Wow.
This book has over 5,400 autographs in it
Wow.
from 1,100 players, 350 of which are deceased. In addition to that, on the blank pages of that same book, he has over 100 Hall of Famers that were past 1985 signed in that book,
Nice.
plus all the ladies of baseball and endless other things. And I'm going to let him ask you, do you have anything you'd like to ask Mr. Steiner? And by the way, this is the person who introduced me to you through his Facebook.
Who is it?
Barry Goldberg. Barry?
Hello, Barry. How are you?
Oh, doing good.
He's a little shy. He's not used to the radio.
No, I met many of the
You've been busy, man. You've been on the case.
Oh, yeah. I get many of the players' autographs. I'm just curious who's your most difficult to deal with or difficult to actually get for a signing.
I don't know. We should ask him that.
Do we have an hour for that? It's just about every player these days, and rightfully so. I mean, they're making a lot of money, and sitting there signing autographs for several hours isn't exactly what's making their day. But we've had some good players and some difficult ones. So there's been some difficult ones.
Well, you know,
I don't know why, but
the reason I brought this up, Brandon, is because he started this book when he was 15. I think you were 15.
wow.
His dad took him to the where did you go? Philadelphia to one of the games.
Yeah, I lived on the East Coast.
So and it all got started from that thing as a kid, just to get a few autographs, and it's turned into something. Now he travels all the time to get autographs, and to me, that's commitment.
You're in the deep end of the pool, son.
Oh, yeah.
But it's the finest level of collecting, and I tell people, as much as I love people to go to Steiner Sports and whether they book athletes with us or buy autographs, to me, I love when people are able to meet players on their own, have their own experience, get stuff signed. I exist for those people that don't have the ability to go meet player X, and at least can give them the opportunity to get what they want. And then we've come up with some pretty creative products, but there's nothing like getting something yourself face to face. There's nothing that beats it, and I'm a big fan of it, and I respect people like crazy that do it because it's fun.
the stories that come out of it. You know,
Yeah,
He's
it's
got
fun.
he has so many incredible stories of some of the players he's met. Because, you know, in 1951, players weren't making the multi-million-dollar contracts like they do today. You know, so, you know, he meets people from every walk of life that played that game. And to me, I've actually gone a couple times now to see what it's like. And it is amazing. You know, I didn't realize why people do this. And now I get it. You know, you do get to meet.
Well, you may have to send me a message on why people do this thing, 'cause I'm still not sure. But 25 million autographs later, I'm still trying to figure it out.
Yeah, I know, yeah. Well, you know, I think it's just like anything in life. Some people collect plates, some people collect elephants, some people collect dolls. You know, it's just a collection.
Yeah, that's true.
The difference is
It's
these
true.
are tangible people that you actually associated with in one way or another to get that autograph. So you actually met them. And to me, that's like a part of history. For me, I see it as part of history. You invested yourself in that history.
Well, I think Sue,
You get connected.
yeah, a lot of people probably even dream of being in the position of these players and are never able to get there, never able to do it.
Right.
And now they have the opportunity to meet that player that they wanted themselves to be.
Right, and this transitions across everything.
Yeah.
Whether you're an author, an actor, a business person, you know,
Yeah.
everyone has their reason for wanting to meet or do or whatever. So, you know,
Yeah.
you've never collected anything. I mean, you're like the man when it comes to memorabilia.
Oh, I got all kinds of issues. Are you kidding me? I'm collecting so many different things. I don't know which one you want to talk about. I mean, I've got ticket stubs, autograph cards, baseball cards, sneakers, basketball shorts is my big collection. I play basketball still. I have 300 pairs of basketball shorts from different teams. I mean, baseball, some bats, and I mean, I don't know what I'm going to. I need to go to therapy. I got so many issues. But I enjoy it. I'm a saver. I'm a collector, and I love making. I get in some deep. You know, some of the stuff we've created and done at Steiner, I love because it rocks people. You know, they just love it.
Yeah.
And I love when I run into them in the street or in emails or on LinkedIn where they're, you know, Brandon. I love this stuff. It's, you know, I'm creating for thousands of people. So, and I still love that part of me. Even though I'm a business person and a promoter, I have that little creative side to me that loves to create just these crazy things. I know we get people all rocked up about the team and you know, the sport that they love. And I love bringing them closer to it.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I just found it amazing. And now Steiner Sports, you've probably done a lot, Barry, with Steiners when it comes to autographs.
Got the autographs. I got a lot of stuff through the mail, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, plenty of stuff. A couple autograph helmets. A couple
He's
autograph
still
balls.
ordering stuff. This man has a
Yeah, well, there's
collection of
32,000 SKUs. There's a lot to order.
We actually want to go
not
there
really
'cause
like, yeah.
I
there's
got
a
to
lot.
get Derek Jeter yet, so we're going to plan a trip eventually to go out and get Derek Jeter out there. So, because I know he's one of the ones you get all the time.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
I don't know if how available he'll be now since he's going to be with the Marlins, but hopefully he'll have.
Well,
it soon.
let's see. Let's hope so, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's got a lot of work ahead of him with that team.
You know, he's a great one. I mean, listen, he did all the things that fans asked him to do for many years, and not many great ones are consistent like him.
Yeah. You've had him on your show, I think. I saw on your radio show.
Yeah, he's special. You know, he's been a big part of Steiner and growing up, and it's been amazing.
Yeah, and I think that's what's kind of interesting too, because you talked about how you met so many people in the past when you were work with the businesses that you started, and you've been maintained friendship with most of them. So it has to be interesting to see them start off and see where their career went. I know as a host of who I interview authors all the time, I'm always amazed when I see an author who came on the show who had never really done anything. Some of them haven't even written anything. In fact, my co-host Jan, her first book when we met, she had not finished her first book. She didn't have an editor, didn't have it out there at all. And you know, it's fun to see someone accomplish something.
Well, I love it. I'm you know, grateful, frankly, and I love when, you know, I'm a starter. I'm a, you know, what's first, what's next, what else guy. But I love when I'm able to get with a player who I know is exceptional, and really get their career going in my category, and they trust me, and we're able to do some magic. Besides the money, for charities, for fans. I love being able to deliver extraordinary things for fans, which they should come first. And sometimes players trust me to put certain things together that are a little bit out there, and yet it's going to take some time. It's not easy, but the fans just go crazy, and they just I love when I can get a player early, right at the beginning of his career, and explain how the business works, and we can make some magic together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a question for you when it comes to your 2 books. Did you self-publish those, or did you go through a traditional publisher?
The first one I went through a traditional publisher, and the second one I co-published with Wiley.
Okay.
The third book I'm working on now will be I'll self-publish. I don't need the days of publishers are kind of getting close to an end.
Right.
And I'm grateful I have a huge distribution with my social media and Steiner's social media.
Right.
I have 250,000 people that read my blog every day.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then I've got quite a bit on my LinkedIn and Facebook. So I can communicate my book that way. And then I have a great relationship with Amazon because we're a big customer.
Yeah.
We're a big vendor there.
Yeah.
And that's all I need. The next book will be kind of cool, a little bit different, not so sportsy, but not that the second one's a big sports book. But I'm loving. I'm a half illiterate, and I barely could write and read as a kid. I had a lot of learning disabilities. Had a problem reading. I couldn't even finish the SAT test.
Yeah.
So I'm very grateful. I always love when people just keep telling me all the stuff I can't do. Well, I'll do that. I'll write the books. I'm writing a blog. Like my brother was reading and writing at 4. Yeah, he was the one who was supposed to write all the books, but I was the idiot. I was like, I'm working on my 3rd book. Yeah, I have a radio show. Yeah, I do a TV show.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I have the Project X that I'm doing a show for entrepreneurs on my Facebook platform, which entrepreneurs, anybody has an idea can go in and listen into it's going over different ideas in entrepreneurship. And I get that idea from the Shark Tank, who constantly piss me off by the beating people up.
Oh, I know. I see
that
too.
I hate that.
Yeah,
like
I do
those
too.
people that come up with ideas and try to make a difference are brave, courageous people, and they need to be thanked, welcomed. We need to keep promoting that in this country. Is what makes this country great.
Yeah.
And not make them look like that road to success is all about scale and beat them up on TV. It's a bad message to our kids.
Yeah,
it's going to move them away from the fear of failing. So my show is just the opposite. We promote everybody that has an idea and get real with them, explain to them, what's needed. And we have different financial people listening in that come as guests. Once in a while, we're just early. We're 2 months into this. We'll have an investor or a private equity person reach out to somebody who's started a product or project. I just want to show them what they need to do, not show them what they didn't do and make them look like an idiot. And that's the premise of the show. So I'm excited. I just love when the people keep telling me about all the stuff I can't do. And that's the stuff I try to share when I do interviews like this and conversations is that, hey, if not you, then who?
Yeah. Right.
Don't really. Don't make sure you got the story straight. It's really important because a lot of times something that happened a long time ago is getting in the way of a really good story that you have the ability to create for your future.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think what you said is important. We always stress on this show, education doesn't have anything to do with your ability to write. You don't have to worry about proper syntax or spelling. That's what you have editors for. And the word processors take care of a lot of that now, or the computer. Right. So, it is important. If you want to do something, don't let anything stop you from doing it.
Yep.
Just go out there and at least give it a try. So
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
All right.
It's important.
Yeah, it's very important.
Yeah.
Jen, you have any questions?
Oh, I'm just absolutely blown away by you, and you've made some statements that, I never thought, like all the grains of sand make the beach.
Yeah.
And so many people don't realize that it takes every one of us to make it all work. And I really like that. And the more you do, the more you can do. And sell what people need.
Yeah.
And you won't have any trouble selling if you're selling somebody what they need as opposed to what you want them to buy.
Yeah.
Yeah, and what I also like you said,
thank you.
That you also do, you're self-publishing this next book. And, obviously you have a platform. But, it's good to let people know, don't let someone discourage you. If you send off 300 query letters and they all come back as a rejection, that don't give up. There's other options out there to go and try and
Oh,
make it work.
in today's world, everybody you can publish through Amazon and literally print 5 books at a time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You got Book in a Box. I mean, there's a lot of companies now to help you put a book together.
Yeah.
Now, granted, like a book, some of those companies will cost you money. Maybe you don't have it, but you can go to Amazon and do a self-publish if you put together a good manuscript and just rock and roll yourself.
Absolutely.
I feel like my Balls book, you got to have balls, which did well. I don't even think it's had its best day. I think it'll still happen probably after I write my next book.
Yeah.
I think, and I learned that from John Gordon, who wrote The Energy Bus. Love that book, by the way. And he told me like that, which The Energy Bus was a New York Times bestseller many, many weeks. And he said that book was out for like a couple of years before, and then he had come out with this other book, and then The Energy Bus took off for, I don't know, some team or something he was involved in. So it's funny, like, I think success doesn't always happen when you want it to.
Right.
But you shouldn't get caught up in that. As long as it happens, it just needs to happen.
Right. And I
Right.
think that's the problem. People don't just let it happen. Sometimes they work too hard towards it and they make mistakes. If you just focus on what you're trying to do, the rest will come to you. Yeah.
There's no question. I think that patience is a key. It's difficult.
Yeah.
Not going to lie. I mean, we've all been down that road where we're like, God, it's going to happen. But, I think patience is a real key. And at the same time, you can be patient and really aggressive at the same time.
Right.
So it's you balance that out. But you could be aggressive. Man, go after it, but be patient. Not everything happens. Rome wasn't built in a day, but I'm sure they were working on it every day.
That's right.
We've talked numerous times about the overnight success that took 20 years to get there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, Mr. Steiner, we're running out of time, so I'd like to thank
Can
you.
you believe how fast an hour goes?
It went so
Goodness.
fast. It always does, and we always say the same thing. I can't believe how fast it went. And Mr.
Well,
Steiner,
thanks for having me.
you're welcome. And so, Brandon Steiner, we can learn more about you at brandonsteiner.com. And your books are on Amazon, so they can go to Amazon to look at your books.
And my books are on Steinersports.com if you want them autographed. I autograph them, and you can pick them up on Steinersports.com or Amazon, either one.
Okay. And I would like to thank my co-host, Janet Corsi, and then Barry Goldberg for sitting in today with his book. I thought we wanted to that would be a neat thing to share with you. You can find out more about Brandon Steiner's books at brandonsteiner.com or amazon.com, and videos of this show will be posted after the show airs on youtube.com and on Roku TV. And we also are on Spreaker, iTunes, iHeartRadio, and we are live on AM/FM 24/7 on Friday evenings. Even though we're pre-recorded, they play the show there. And then we have 14 terrestrial stations. So if you need any information about our show, just go to aspectsofwriting.com and learn more. Again, Brandon, thank you for being on the show. And until next week, this is your host, James Kelly, reminding you, if you can dream it, you can write it. Thank you, Brandon.
Thank you. Been a pleasure.